And just like that, the Titans 2023 preseason comes to a close. Final score from Nissan Stadium, Titans 23, the New England Patriots 7. The Titans finish out the preseason at 2-1. Up next, roster cut day, and then week 1 of the 2023 regular season at the New Orleans Saints. But first, there is much to discuss. And alongside Dr. Kevin Dyson to do it, I'm Lucas Panzica. We want to hear from you. 615-737-1045 as we put the finishing touches on the 2023 edition of the Titans preseason. Titans Talkback, of course, presented by Lee Company. All you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. KD, first home game of 2023, a dominant performance by the Tennessee Titans. Not a lot of starters, really no starters tonight from the New England Patriots. Titans trotted out quite a few.
Yeah.
And in the end, finishing out the preseason on a positive note with much to discuss for the Titans coaching staff over the next couple days.
You know, I was happy to see, starters playing tonight. I thought, with the break between now and the home opener or the season opener, not really getting any game time live reps all preseason long, to finally get out there and bang around a little bit and see kind of the product that we potentially could see during the season. It was good to see the guys out there. Defense was flying around, and guys look energetic. They were banging. They were flowing. You kind of can see like what being built behind the veil, kind of, so to speak. It was good to see the guys out there a little bit and get in, get out, get the work in, get out. From the game's perspective, from that point on, Malik, it was a whole lot of good with a little bit of, he did a lot of good things, but you continue to see him grow as a football player in the National Football League, as a leader. He responded well from adversity. He had really, as you pointed out, what Vrabel said, and it holds true, he had really one bad throw, and it was almost like he wished he had that thing on a yo-yo, and he pulled it right back, because as soon as he released it, he was like, ooh, I shouldn't have thrown that. He knew it, once he let go. He was decisive. He made some good plays. I still think fundamentally he does some things, but he got away with it today. Fundamentally, he's throwing against his body a little bit. He made some great pocket throws, and it's hard to say that he's not going into week 1 as the official backup. He obviously, due to the injury, got a lot reps. He got a lot more film in that regard. He has the film from last year. There has to be some level of comfort that you would think that the franchise, and at very least Vrabel, has with him going in as a number 2 while the young guy's still getting acclimated to the NFL, to the game a little bit, and the knowledge of the playbook. Also, man, and we'll get to it, I'm sure everybody's wanting to talk to this, but just some people that keep popping off the page, and we'll get to those guys. But, stellar performance. Once they settled down and they got things going, once they gathered that lead, they just continue to dominate. Both fronts, again, as I illustrated last week, offensive line, if they can get this consistency, and this is from the backups, so that if the starters can continue to be aggressive and have that distance, the backups seem to be able to move the pile, create running lanes, and we'll get to some of these running backs later. Defensive line, relentless, getting after the quarterback, 6 sacks tonight. It's shaping up to be a good football team. Now, you still got to play the games. All that still matters. You still got to get down to 53 in the next, week and a half
Tuesday.
Tuesday. So
yeah, Tuesday's roster cut
days. You got to get down to 53. So it's a lot to be done, and I'm sure we talk about that here in a little bit.
Titans outgained the Patriots 368-79. A dominant performance on both sides of the ball. Malik Willis goes 15 of 20, 211 yards, a pair of touchdowns, a pair of picks, a pair of sacks taken. Willis only ran the ball 8 times tonight for 17 yards compared to the 90-plus yards he had on the ground last Saturday in Minnesota. So starting with Malik Willis, because obviously coming into training camp, that was one of, if not the biggest talking points with this entire football team. The backup quarterback battle, a little anticlimactic, right? Because we don't get to see Will Levis in Minnesota. We don't get to see him tonight against New England. Out with what Jeremy Fowler has called a thigh injury. It's been called a quad injury, whatever you want to call it. Will Levis not only has to get acclimated, like you said, has to get healthy, right, to be a factor in this. And it's hard to imagine, as you said, Malik Willis going into the regular season as anything less than the Titans' backup quarterback tonight. But could you dive in a little more on what you said there? We know the interception was bad, the second one specifically. First one's a little bit behind Josh Wiley. Mike Vrabel talking to Mike Keith on Titans Radio postgame said, I wrote down the exact quote, the protection was suspect on that play. So he pointed a little more to a collapsing pocket there. Malik just trying to maybe get rid of it just a touch earlier than he needed to over the middle. It's slightly behind Wiley, ends up getting picked off. But the second pass over the middle, straight into the second level of the defense, right? It's just not there. It's a throw you can't make. So we understand that just can't happen. But otherwise, could you get into a little more of what you saw from Malik? When you talk about mechanically some things he could have done better and also what you liked from him tonight, other than the obvious, which is the great throw to Kieras and the really bad interception.
Yeah, I'll start with some things. I still think he throws a little bit against his body a little bit, some sidearm throws, which kind of affects his accuracy and maybe even some of his touch. But he got away with it tonight. I thought he had good pocket presence today. He was sitting there going through his progressions and knew when the bell, had a good sense of when people were behind him or nipping at his heels or around his waist to get out of trouble. He wasn't able to make the long runs like he did last week, but he did enough to make the Patriots respect him, especially with his legs. But he was just phenomenal with his decision process today, and it just seemed like he got into a rhythm compared to the first drive or so when he was 1 for 4 with the pick. But other than that, really that bad decision where you could tell as soon as he released it, he just, like I said, felt like he wished he had that thing on yo-yo, could pull that thing right back. He other than that, I felt like his decision-making process was really good for pretty much the majority of the game. And even with that pick, the very next drive, he still was making key throws. That's what I was most proud of for him, was the bounce back. There wasn't that sulking, and it wasn't that, oh man, I didn't lost my spot or whatever it was. He was just like, okay, I'm gonna get it back. Let's go. And the defense did let him score. He got the ball right back, went down the field. So I think there's a lot of things. There's a lot that he has been able to. It's unfortunate that injury happened, but this experience for Malik getting these reps has been valuable, because to me it solidified the whole conversation of who is the backup going into week 1. I don't think it's any question. Now, there may have never been a question. Nobody knows that except for the Titans themselves and the coaches, but we all assume because they drafted Levis that this was the battle. Well, right now it's not even close. And again, there's nothing to say about Levis. I mean, you can't predict the injuries. He doesn't want that. He wants to be out there playing too. But the unfortunate thing, gave somebody else an opportunity. And like Rondé Barber said way back, when you get opportunity, you don't look back. You have to look forward. You got to take advantage of opportunities, make the most of your opportunities. And I feel like Malik Willis did that.
We went into the Minnesota game talking about it in that same context. Okay, Will Levis not playing. Here's a chance for Malik to really seize this thing, right? Leave no doubt. And we talked about it. Don't know that he really did that. It kind of felt like he was on a similar plane to what we saw in Chicago, would you say?
Yeah.
Coach Mack earlier today on the Buck Rising show called it an uneven performance.
Yep, it was ebbs and flows.
In Minnesota. Do you feel like he took maybe some steps in that direction tonight? We're not leaving tonight, or maybe we are leaving saying unequivocally Malik Willis grabbed that QB2 role by the horns and did not relinquish it with this performance. Would you go that far as to say that tonight? Or
I would. And here's the thing. Like I said before, there was a lot of good and there was some And he again, but there was less of the than there was the week before. And that's all you want to see from a quarterback, a young quarterback, as a coordinator or a coach, is that he's learning from his mistakes and he's progressively getting better week to week. So you can feel confident with him if an injury occurs. Like last year, it was almost like he was force-fed into this role when we didn't know if he was ready or not. We just wanted to see what the kid can do because he reminded us a lot of McNair and his athleticism. He was a different type of quarterback than what Tannehill is now in this point of his career. And so there was a lot of excitement to it. But then it was kind of some letdown because of the performances that he had as a starting quarterback in the National Football League. Well, then he ended up losing his job to Josh Dobbs, who got here for 3 days, whatever it was, and ended up taking the spot. So there was a letdown there. Well, this preseason, they go and draft another quarterback. So you're thinking, well, they're about to do the same thing, but now it's just Levis and not Dobbs that were replaced the guy. But they said, oh, it's competition. We're going to see what happens. And I feel like as soon as the injury went, he took advantage of his opportunities. Yet last week, it was some good, some bad. It was kind of in the middle. He had some good plays, some good moments, especially with his legs. He made some throws, and there was some bad plays. Some bad, he should have ran when he didn't run, or he made some bad throws, things of that nature. And today, I think he had more good than bad. And I think that's showing you progress from a young quarterback who is learning week to week from his experiences, from his mistakes. And to me, that in itself has solidified him as the number 2 just because he's been able to get this experience. I can't imagine going in right now, and if I got both quarterbacks saying, I feel confident with Levis because I know what he can do. You don't know. He just has that small sample size. When they rotated series, there wasn't even like a consistent, let me see what you can do for a half, go drive the drive, that sort of thing. And even his last taste of action was a pick. So that's the lasting image he has. Imagine how frustrated he is. He wants to get back out there and prove his worth. And now we're going to regular season. He's going now. His opportunity to show that is scout team. He's going to be doing scout team quarterback. He's going to be who we play, New Orleans. He's going to be Carr this week. That's the kind of role but he's got to do Carr well every week, or whoever the next quarterback is every week. And that's kind of where he's going to be right now. Him and Malik will be rotating reps in that and trying to go through their progressions, doing that thing, using somebody else's offense, and that's going to be where he's at until he gets an opportunity to compete. Now, that's me making an assumption, and I feel like you kind of had the same sentiment. That's based off what we see right now. I just knowing, being a coach and having a competition, I know I'm dealing with the devil I know, and I know this one. And I still don't know what this commodity is, although I think he's talented.
615-737-1045, the number for you to hop in, for you to chat with Dr. Kevin Dyson, react to the Titans' 23-7 preseason win over New England. 615-737-1045. Jackson Williams, our producer, will get you patched in. Can also hang out with us on 1045 The Zone TV. Hop in the F&M Bank chat, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. It is Titans Talkback on WGFX Gallatin, Nashville, 1045 The Zone, of course, presented by Lee Company. The Titans trust their home stadium to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home, too. Your next play? Visit LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. I think one quick thing here on Malik, KD, before we move on, because there is a lot to get into as we wrap up the preseason. At the end of the first half, 90-yard scoring drive, takes over 5 minutes off the clock. Willis goes 4 for 4 for 84 yards and a touchdown. That includes 2 third-down conversions of 30-yard gains, one to Colton Dow and one on a dump-off to Julius Chestnut with a ton of space underneath. In the middle of that drive, Titans put the ball on the ground in back-to-back plays. Yeah. A botched exchange.
Ooh, about to drive verbal crazy.
Right. How do you even process that as a head coach? Because there's obviously a lot of success kind of bookending that drive, but right in the middle there, you have the botched exchange on the handoff to Chestnut that the Titans end up recovering. And then on the very next play, Chestnut gets literally flipped over at the line of scrimmage. Ball comes out. Andre Dillard saves the drive, and the Titans are able to finish and cap it off on a touchdown pass to Julius Chestnut.
But even before that, there was an inadvertent timeout I don't think he really wanted.
Right.
Because he started screaming and dog cussing somebody. I was trying to wait to keep an eye on read his mouth, but there was some miscommunication there too. He was like, what the bleep is going on? And so there was a lot going on. And again, it goes back to look how Malik handled all that situation. He still was able to compose himself and have a drive that resulted in not just points, a touchdown. And that was a critical moment. And I think that was a maturation process for him as he's gotten better in his leadership role.
So the Titans, 23-7 the final over New England. Moving off Malik Willis a little bit. We touched on it a little bit off the top. A lot of starters played in this one.
Yeah.
Defensively. I mean, essentially, the entire starting defense is out there with the exception of Jeffrey Simmons. Danico Autry, you surprised at the amount of playing time Danico Autry got tonight? An absolute nightmare for that Patriots offensive line, almost none of which were starters, but Autry knocking the rust off a little bit out there.
Surprised, yes, for the amount, but pleased. I feel like, and again, maybe I'm old school in my thought process and how we used to do preseason, but I found those games valuable in as far as part of my conditioning process for the long season. The regular season is a long season, and there's a conditioning process you go through where finally your body gets to a point where you are, I don't want to say used to the banging and the pain and the soreness and the routine of you play on Sunday, you wake up sore as heck Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and you finally starting to feel right on Thursday. Friday, you finally feel like you can play a football game. Saturday, you travel. Sunday, you start all over again. And there's a sense of how your body works through those things. And I always view the preseason as part of that process. And last year, with them not utilizing starters pretty much at any point in the preseason, some of the key starters at that, but for a lot of guys, I felt like that also helped them. Well, I should help them. It contributed to the rust at the beginning of the year. They kind of had that slow start. And you won some games here and there, but it just didn't seem like had that explosion, the explosive kind of feel they had the year prior to when they were just winning a lot of football games. So I was happy to see it personally. I like seeing the guys out there. It was a little long for the last preseason game, but there must have been some intent in there. I think they wanted to get a rhythm. And, hey, the way that defense looked without Jeffrey, Big Jeff, if they could play like this without the monster.
And without Tier Tart
without Tart, man, hey, that's ugly for the rest of the league because to your best pass rushers, to your best run stoppers, are not even playing, and you can do that. And again, it wasn't their start, but that doesn't matter. They still got a uniform on. They still in front of me. They still got to play. Hey, they get it moving like that, they're going to be problems for everybody.
Held the Patriots to 55 rush yards tonight, 24 total passing yards tonight for the New England Patriots.
Everybody was getting after quarterbacks. We'll get to my man Murphy.
Yeah.
We'll talk to him about him, and they had 6 sacks today, but I tell you what, man, they was getting after the quarterback today. The last 2 weeks, they've been getting after the quarterback.
Texas Titan on the F&M Bank chat says the defensive front is going to eat this year. Ocho says the Titans controlled the clock tonight. As I look at the time of possession.
Yeah, what was that?
38 minutes, 38 seconds in favor of the Titans, 21-22 in favor of the Patriots.
Wow. They're just controlling the clock.
Well, I mean, and that could lead us right into this run game with Julius Chestnut and his performance tonight, KD. Hassan Haskins, has dealt with injuries throughout the course of training camp. You talk about a guy that has taken full advantage of those opportunities, Julius Chestnut. And the numbers are not going to pop out, right? 9 carries, 30 yards. It was actually Jaquez Patrick that led the Titans in rushing tonight. 15 carries for 76 yards. That's another guy that took advantage of the opportunities tonight. Absolutely. I mean, he's been with this team, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Tyjae Spears getting the start, 9 carries for 28 yards for Spears. The Titans racking up 163 rush yards on 43 total attempts. So Spears continues to look good through a little stiff arm there early in the first quarter that Derrick Henry, I'm sure, would have been proud of. Did have a drop in the left flat early in the first quarter as well, but before we get to Julius Chestnut and how he could factor in when it comes to roster cut day, that to me, KD, I think is going to be one of my biggest preseason takeaways. Tyjae Spears, assuming health, is going to play a massive role for this offense in 2023.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think he has an element of a little power with a little bit of shiftiness that is a great complement to your star player, your star running back. If we're talking about running backs, I think the three you mentioned, Tajay, Chestnut, and, of course, the King Henry, they're definitely on the roster. Haskins is kind of the odd man looking out right now, unfortunately. I think Patrick is an intriguing person to talk about. It's interesting that they brought him in late, and he's gotten a lot of looks in the last 2 games. He barely just got off the plane, and he's gotten a lot of experience in this offense, and he is taking advantage of his opportunities. He's an interesting prospect because I think he has a lot of talent. He just needs to find a home, and he has a style that is complementary to what the Titans want to do. He's a banger. He's a kind of a wider body, a guy who's going to get tough yards. He's always leaning forward. He doesn't lose a lot of yards at contact. So there's going to be a lot of conversation as to how many receivers versus tight ends. I think tight ends, you might end up keeping one more just because of the lack of fullback on the roster, and that tight end becomes your fullback. So you might keep one more versus your running back. And then the complement to your running back is the linebacker position because of special teams. And that's the comparable position as far as blocking and kickoff and all that kind of stuff. So how many linebackers are you going to keep? So when they're mapping out these rosters, it's not just I got 53 spots and I got 26 and a half on offense, 26 and a half on defense, or whatever. It's not that simple. So they gotta kind of map this out. What do we need? So it might be only, let's say, 30 roster spots on defense, and then everything else is offense with special teams. It's gonna be some true willing and dealing trying to figure out this depth, but it's a good problem to have because I think what they have so far that is on a roster, you can feel comfortable they're going to have a strong 53.
3 quarterbacks is the way that it's trending.
Yeah.
Where does that take away from depth, right? That's always the question. Titans have almost always, under Mike Vrabel, gone into the season with that first roster with 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
It's going to take away from somewhere. Where's that going to come from? 615-737-1045 for you to join us. Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. All you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. Benny, calling from Smith County, wants to talk about Malik Willis. Benny, how's it going, man?
It's all right. How y'all doing?
We're
All
good,
right, man.
All I want to say is that was I seen what Tannehill done tonight, and I wasn't impressed at all with him starting the game. I got a first cousin the same way. He's from Kemple. He said that he didn't play worth the crap. I said, well, he started anyway. I said, but I definitely put him out, and I said, I'd have that other guy. I'd have Bo Willis. He'd be my main quarterback. I said, anybody throw 2 interceptions and still win the game? I said, what more do you want? I haven't seen anything I've seen.
Appreciate it, Benny. Tannehill gets 1 drive, couple of handoffs, couple operational things, 1 delay of game, and then it is hanging out on the sideline the rest of the way.
Yeah, that was just to get your feet wet. Again, I think it was just a rhythm thing, center, quarterback exchange, just in a game mode, hot, sweaty hands, just some things you need to you can't replace with game speed with practice, just different. So again, we didn't see a whole lot from him. You don't see the king at all. I mean, that just some things you got to do. To me, I feel like I always enjoyed it. We always went out there, and I'd be interested to hear somebody like Eddie talk about it, because Eddie, who's a guy who touched the ball 300-400 times a year, did he take value in the preseason like somebody like myself, where I liked getting out there and getting some reps? Now, I didn't want to be out there 4 quarters. I like to get in, get out too. I wanted my series or 2, and I liked the whole notion of playing a half, coming out of halftime, and playing a series just to get acclimated to doing that again and all that kind of stuff. So I was weird in that sense, I guess. I liked that part of it. Now I wasn't all four of them. That seemed to be a lot, but I always took value in the starters being out there, man, and working together, because it's just something with that communication and that field and that body language and stuff that's nonverbal that happens on the field all the time. Like quarterbacks reading your break and reading the linebacker, stuff that you can watch it on film and then okay, I see that. That's familiar to me. Oh, I see his shoulders leaning. He's coming. Oh, he's blitzing. I can tap my helmet. He's coming. He's corner. It's those things that happen in games that you can kind of mimic it in practice, but the speed of the game, it happens so fast that there's nothing like it. And so I always want to be out there. So it was, again, I go back to I was appreciative and I like to see the starters out there.
615-737-1045. Got a lot of that tonight, especially on the defensive side of the ball, as we said. Almost every defensive starter playing tonight. No Big Jeff, no Tier Tart up front. Did not stop the Titans' front seven from dominating tonight against a lot of Patriots backups. One position of some concern that we have not yet talked about, but we'll let Josh on I-40 kick off that conversation for us as he joins us to talk kickers on Titans Talkback. What's up, Josh?
Yeah, so Badgley doinks the first one, misses another one, and then doinks the top of the post again. Do you think he's our day one kicker? We can see if there's any other cuts around the league. I'll hang up and listen. Appreciate it.
Thanks for the call, Josh.
It didn't leave you feeling confident. Like you said, the bank shots from straight ahead leave you a little concerned. Again, we're not there every day in practice to see the consistency. All we see is the small sample size in game. But to me, that's the most important time. So when there's truly pressure on the line, do you feel right now, as people are listening and calling in, what we have seen so far, are they feeling confident that he is the guy with 1, 2, 3 seconds left on the clock, 44-yard field goal left hash, that he's going to be the one to win it?
I don't know how that answer could be yes right now.
Right. And so if we're saying that, are the coaches seeing it? Again, we're not in practice every day. We're not seeing it what they're seeing every day in the competition. We're not seeing it his powerful leg. We're not seeing the consistency, the drilling it. And our small sample size and the most recent sample size, are we as fans confident that, again, when the game's online, left hash, 44 yards with 2-3 seconds left on the clock, he's going to be the man to win it for you?
615-737-1045. We'll keep it on special teams as Nolan from Cookeville wants to talk returners on Titans Talkback presented by League Company. What's up, Nolan?
What's up, guys? So I just want to know if you guys think that Kyrus Jackson showed enough tonight, that touchdown, to make a roster spot and potentially be the returner.
Thanks for the call, man.
So we talked about this off air. We talked about the receiving core. And, we talk about Burks and D-Hop, always no-brainer. More, I think, with his versatility, his experience, and what he's done on special teams. Kind of watched him again tonight on special teams. He's on multiple special teams, multiple positions. He's a physical receiver. And he also probably could return if you let him. So he's adds that element as well. I think he has enough experience that he can even potentially be your number 3 receiver. So then you talk about those 3. There's 3 roster spots. So now, in essence, you're talking about 4, 5, and 6, maybe 6. Nick Westbrook-Akine, I think, is 4. He's 3-4, but I'm just saying the 4th receiver, that's 4. So now you're talking about 1, 2 potential spots. So we're talking about Dow. Who else? Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Jackson.
And Mason Kinsey.
And Kinsey, who also adds an element of versatility that they've shown the last couple of weeks as well with him.
Yeah.
With the Wildcat, I call it Wildcat because that's an old school term now.
Got a couple snaps in there at quarterback tonight.
Again. So, and then I'll go back to the caller's question. Jackson, big play punt return, big play receiving, plays on special teams well, and caught a few balls. Well, I don't know how many catches he had.
His only target tonight was the touchdown.
Was a touchdown.
26-yard touchdown. He was just a guy coming in that you thought he's got to make a play tonight, right? If he wants to make this team and stake his claim, Kyle Phillips hurt right now. Reportedly, that's going to be a few weeks. Not looking like he's going to be back for the early portion of the regular season, whether that's week 1, 2, 3, I don't know. But he was just a guy that you thought, got to make a play tonight, and he did.
Yeah.
26-yard touchdown. His only punt return, a 16-yard return.
So with that being said, and with Kyle Phillips being out another few weeks, I mean, obviously they're not going to, if they can put him on reserved injured or whatever it's called now, PUP or whatever, they're going to do that. They're going to save that spot. So with that being said, you pretty much got to eliminate him from the active roster spot based on right now. So does that open up a spot for Jackson? And I don't know. We still got to do the math. It's going to be interesting to see what they put a premium on, because I still think you do have to go with an extra tight end because you don't have a fullback. And so that lends itself to having another guy that can kind of be a dual role guy, the tight end, F-back / H-back, whatever you want to call it nowadays, that can do that. So instead of keeping just 3, you might keep 4, maybe even 5 tight ends. So depending on how that goes, now you also got to think about linemen with Petit Frere being out. Does that lend itself to keeping an extra tackle or extra guard? There's a lot of things they got to consider. So they might only keep 5 receivers, 3 quarterbacks, but then now they're going to keep 4 tight ends and 4 running backs. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see what the give and take is in the next few days.
615-737-1045 for you to join us. It's Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. All you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. When we come back, let's talk about some of these fringe players like Kearis Jackson. Who else is going to force some difficult decisions for the Titans coaching staff for roster cut day coming up on Tuesday following the Titans' 23-7 victory over the New England Patriots to wrap up the 2023 preseason. Alongside Dr. Kevin Dyson, I'm Lucas Panzica. We'll be right back on Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company on 104.5 The Zone.
Being chased, hit, fumbles, ball running free. It's been picked up. Grabbing the football is Peavy, and he will take it inside the 5-yard line.
That's defense.
Autry with the hit, Peavy with the recovery, and the Titans with a takeaway.
Titan starters were on the field on defense early in the first quarter, and they were running through that Patriots offensive line, sure, filled with backups, but like turnstiles. Kevin Dyson, welcome back. Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. I'm Lucas Panzica. Lee Company, all you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com, as that leads us right into the Kroger Sacks for Cash. Tonight, the Titans had 6 sacks, courtesy of Danico Autry, Rashad Weaver, Kyle Pecco, Caleb Murphy, and Michael Dwumfor, the defensive lineman, with 2 for the season. Kroger's donation to Second Harvest Food Bank of Middle Tennessee now stands at $1,100, courtesy of the 6 sacks tonight. Every time the Titans sack the opposing team's quarterback, Kroger donates $100 to Second Harvest Food Bank of Middle Tennessee. From Kroger. Through its Zero Hunger, Zero Waste plan, Kroger is committed to ending hunger in our communities. We were talking about it in the break, KD. Looked like Danico Autry wanted to be out there, and he kept coming out and kept coming out. I think he got 3 series in total. Andre Dillard, your starting left tackle, is playing into the start of the third quarter. And that's one of those things that you can look at surface level and say, well, okay, this coaching staff must want to see more from Andre Dillard if they keep trotting him out there. But Ramon Foster on the sidelines for Titans radio insinuating that it was Dillard that wanted to keep going back out there. You've talked about this on this show throughout this preseason, that you liked being out there, just the little things to get back to game speed. Even just seeing Christian Fulton go in for a tackle was good for me. Yeah. Just a good physical tackle along the sidelines from Christian Fulton. I mean, how valuable is that to you? Because we sit here and argue about it back and forth. People like me and Jackson or Buck, whoever, that have never played a snap in the NFL, never come close. But truly, how valuable is that? Just one hit, one series, one quarter, even if you're not even that involved.
I think it's interesting because I think a casual fan, somebody that watches the game and maybe not played it at that level, would say, I would rather save my guys for regular season, right? You don't want to risk injury. And there's always going to be a risk when you put on the pads. I don't care if it's practice or regular season. But that's the conventional thinking is rest my guys for the long haul. You know what I mean? I don't want to risk them potentially getting rolled up on or taking an inadvertent hit or something that costs me to have my guys out there for the regular season. But there's also something to say with soft tissue strains and tears and shoulder bumps and AC joints and things of that nature. Whereas in practice, you bang a little, you do a little bit of that, but game speed is a little bit different. And as I was illustrating to you off air was, you might run that comeback route a little bit harder. And you run full speed at practice, but there's a little more emphasis on the juke or on the move, and then you strain your quad, or now you're going hard all the time, and so your legs are fatigued a little sooner. You're not used to running 40 routes full speed or 40 goes because now the game dictates that you running 25 go routes or whatever it may be. So for me, I always like to go out there and compete at that level, even if it was the preseason. As Blaine would always say, man, he took it almost like a game. I watched film, I studied, I did my scouting report because I wanted to condition my body. And as a receiver, I felt kind of the same way. I wanted to catch a ball, get hit. If I did get a catch, I wanted to go down. I wanted to scoop out the linebacker. I wanted to crack block the linebacker, bang a little bit, to say, okay, here we go. This is what we're getting at. But also, at the same time, I wanted to get in, get out. I wanted to get my work in. I wanted to get out. I wanted to condition my body for that season that's ahead. And as we talked, you're seeing more and more teams this year compared to last year when it was unprecedented, like 17-game season. What's this going to be like? And I think people really knew what that was going to do to players' bodies specifically as you talk about, should we play them? We're cutting down the preseason game, but should we play guys knowing we got this extra game that really counts and goes towards postseason play? Well, so with that in mind, it looks like this year more players, as you just illustrated, are like, man, I want to play because there's a lot more soft tissue tears. Now, I haven't seen the data on this. I'm just basing all this off of memory on what happened last year with different people being out for lengths of times throughout the points of the season. You had soft tissues, you had hamstrings, you had shoulder joints, groins, and quad muscles. There was a lot more of those type injuries from significant players throughout the course of the year last year. And it just makes it could have been the same as any other year. It just seemed to be a lot more, maybe because I was looking for it compared to years past, because last year wasn't a whole lot of starters playing in the preseason anywhere. But this year, there seemed to be a little bit more of that, especially at quarterback. Now, some of the quarterbacks still didn't play. We didn't see Aaron Rodgers play much. We didn't see Tannehill.
Rodgers expected to make his Jets debut tomorrow.
Right, and we didn't see Tannehill play much. But he showed it. He had a little bit today, last one of the season. But we saw Russell Wilson. We saw Mahomes. We've seen, what's the young kid in Carolina right now?
Bryce Young got a lot of work today.
Got a lot of work. He's got a lot of work the whole preseason. Mm-hmm. He was named starter weeks ago. So we have seen some starters get some work this year compared to last year. And I think last year was kind of a lesson learned type year on how do we, with this new process, this new preseason, this new game schedule, condition players to get them ready for that long haul into the playoffs.
Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. All you need, visit them online at leecompany.com. Hanging out with Titans legend Kevin Dyson, 615-737-1045 on until midnight. If you want to hop in as the Titans wrap up the preseason with the 23-7 win over New England at Nissan Stadium. 2-1 are the Titans in the 2023 preseason. You can hang out with us on 104.5 The Zone TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. On the F&M Bank chat, Michael says 3 handoffs. That wasn't playing, talking about Ryan Tannehill. But it can be operational too, right?
Right.
A new voice in your helmet. An offensive coordinator, Tim Kelly. A completely rebuilt offensive line in front of you, new targets. I know Tannehill only handed it off a couple of times. There's a delay game penalty in there. But just from an operational standpoint, how valuable can that be? Because for everything you just said, Tannehill wasn't taking any hits. We understand that. Yeah. Tannehill's not going through reads and progressions. He's not throwing the football. But just trotting on the field and back off, he got less work than a lot of the starters that we're seeing around the league. But still, just from an operational standpoint, is there value in that for you as well?
And I think there's a rhythm in the cadence that the offensive line probably need to get used to. Noise in the stadium compared to what Malik and his cadence and his rhythm is, and the voice and how it carries down the line when he's making calls and checks. There's a lot of different things like that we don't necessarily think about that carries away. Is his voice and his diction and how he pronunciates words and things of that nature, where guys getting a sense of, I know what's coming next, and they can kind of tune in and start thinking about their job assignment. So little things like that. Then you talk about the rhythmic stuff like snap and center quarterback exchange, quarterback running back exchange, steps to that is the speed of that. Practice is maybe a little slower compared to, and now I'm giving it to Tajay compared to Derrick Henry in a game like mode. What's that look like? So, those type of things where you get your reps in, you just get the feel for the game, let the guys know you're here, your leaders in here, I get in, get out. And it's just a good feel, just to get that energy, feeling that adrenaline of getting in the huddle, calling a few plays. Okay, now I'm ready to get the season started again.
Ocho on the F&M Bank chat points out, first game on the new turf at Nissan Stadium. Looked good out there. Justin from Facebook says, I feel if this defense stays healthy, they will be crazy good. Is that where you feel most optimistic going into the season? This defense in the front seven specifically?
I think because they had the fewest or the least way to go to be really good, which they were pretty good last year and the year before. So I think with everything coming back, I think with the guys on the edges, because we talked about the corners, the inconsistency there coming into last season, and now this year with a lot of those same guys coming back and the experiences that they have, and the guys that we're assuming are going to be backups like Avery, who looks like a starter the way he's playing in this preseason, it bodes well for confidence that you got depth on the edges now. You feel good about inside. You always feel good about your safeties. And now we know what the interior can do with Big Jeff and Archery and oh man, I'm missing guys. I'm sorry. And then you add some of these young guys that are seemingly getting better. Weaver's another guy who's worked his way up, and he looks like a bona fide pass threat. So you look at potentially, to answer your question, yes, they look like, okay, this group is going to be really good and solidified, and you feel optimistic about them, yes. But I'm encouraged and optimistic about this offensive line. I felt like going into this offseason, going into this summer, going into training camp, and coming into the preseason, to me, that was one of the biggest question marks with everything that transpired last season with the injuries, to the offseason, to all the moves, free agent moves that they had, to what do we have? You made a good, solid draft pick. I think that kid's going to be a pretty good.
Peter Skoronski,
he's going to be pretty good. He's going to be a pretty good guard. But Pierre Tart, he ended up being Petit Frere, he ended up being a pretty good tackle for you last year, but he's not going to be there for a quarter of the season now. But what they have done in the preseason, at least, it seems they got a good group and some depth to work with to get better. Now, we'll see how it all meshes when the King gets out there, when D-Hop gets out there, when Burks gets out there, when Tannehill gets out there. We'll see how it all works together. But I am the most optimistic, at least right now, from an offense standpoint, what the offensive line potentially can do. If they continue to get better every week like they seem to have, and added depth, I think they can be pretty good on offense, but that is the biggest gap of question marks compared to what defense is and where offense is still. But I'm a little less stressed, if you will, about what the offensive line is going to look like. I feel like they're coached up well. The guys look confident. They're moving the pile to get into the second level, to create running lanes. I mean, they had another 200-yard rushing night tonight, right?
Almost.
200.
Titans had, as I'm pulling up the numbers now, 163 rush yards on 43 total attempts tonight.
Almost 200 yards rushing. And Malik Willis only had 17 of those, because last time they had well over 200. He had 90-something. So, quarterback, you count him, but it's still quarterback, But, still, that's solid performance. That's everybody collectively. Receivers blocking downfield, running backs making guys miss. But at the same time, that's some consistency of running the football that they have shown from week 1 in the preseason to week 2 in the preseason to week 3 in the preseason. I don't care if it's starters or not. That bodes well and gives you a little confidence going to the regular season, at least more than I would assume we'd be at this point, as question marks of what the team's going to look like. But, yeah, I'm ready to see what this defense does, but I'm more excited to see the potential of this offensive line.
Well, they've gotten a lot of work, the offensive line, against this defensive front that we've seen how dominant it has been throughout the course of the preseason. So whereas the defense feels like a group that could really hit the ground running in week 1, do you feel like this offensive line, maybe there's some optimism, some confidence, as you're saying, from what you've seen in the preseason, but does it still feel like a group that probably will need to grow into the season? Yeah,
absolutely. And again, I think I had dire straits in my head, like
worst case scenario was flashing through your mind.
God, what's this offensive line going to be like? Like, they lost this guy retired. Like, it was just so much going on. Like, who's this? They got a rookie guard, but they have looked somewhat decent so far. And so it kind of took a little bit of that strain off of you a little bit. And you still got to play the game. You still got to go against some of the best football defensive linemen in the world from week in, week out, let alone in practice. Every weekend, you got to prove that every time. And they're going to win some, lose some. You just hope they win more than they lose. But I feel better than I assumed I would be at this point going into the season. I thought, we're going to be talking about the offensive line struggling again. They gave up 12 sacks in the preseason. They couldn't run the football. I was like, worst case scenario, like really ready to talk about how bad they look. But it's exact opposite. They've been impressive. They've been getting after the team's fronts. They've been getting to the second level, getting to linebackers, creating running lanes. They've been washing defensive lines down, creating backside running lanes on these zone cuts and giving him – he's not even getting there to the safeties trying to come down and ankle bite him. and then they hopping over safeties and everything else, man. It's the offensive line so far, to say the word impressive, maybe not the best word, but they've been better than I assumed they would be at this point.
Still would have liked to see the work they would have gotten in joint practices against New England, against that starting front seven.
Yeah.
That joint practice gets canceled, and for good reason. Concerns about Isaiah Bolden, the rookie corner who was stretchered off with a scary head injury last Saturday in the preseason game at Green Bay. Patriots, instead of coming down here, just kind of go back home, regroup a little bit to come back for the preseason game.
Understood.
But totally understood. But just from what you saw or what was reported, everything coming out from joint practices in Minnesota, Vikings front seven were finding some success against the Titans offensive line. Danielle Hunter, was finding some success, just like the Titans front was against the Vikings offensive line in those joint practices. So would have been interested to see what that would have looked like from a joint practice perspective. Obviously, the next time we will see this group will be week 1 in New Orleans against what was one of the better defenses in the NFL, one of the better front sevens in the NFL in 2022.
Exactly. That's my point. Again, practice is one thing. In a squad or playing against Minnesota in practice, that's one thing, and it gives you some good experience. But every week you're playing the best, and you got a test in 2 weeks. So we'll see. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited about the potential. And now I could be saying this in week 3 and eating crow and be like, well, they need to go get a whole new offensive line because this ain't working. But I'm hoping what they have done with the experience that they're building up. And again, I know there's going to be some lumps. I mean, you got a rookie who's starting. I mean, he's going to take his lumps. He's going to miss a check. He's going to forget, and he's going to go left when everybody else is sliding right. Like, there's going to be those because it's just what it is. He's going to get that fatigue. I can remember it hit me like in October, like I want to say like October 4th or 11th. And at that point, I had played a whole college football season, and I still had a whole half a year to go. And it's inevitable. It hits every rookie. You're like, dang, man, I didn't play 12 football games already, and it's only October. And now you're like, dang, what's next? And you still had a whole – at that time, we were like, I think 4-4 or something like that. And I'm like, man, I still got 8 more games to go. And it's like, wow, man, this is a long season. It just takes you some getting used to, man, and your body just banging like that. And you're at a high competitive level almost every day. The only days you really are not is like Monday, Tuesday, because Monday's right after the game, Tuesday's your day off, but then Wednesday you're back at practice, Thursday you have practice, Friday you have practice, Saturday's preparation for the game, you play Sunday. That's the only time you get somewhat, it's not even a mental break, it's just physicality break. Like you're not trying to earn a spot, so to speak, and compete on a daily basis like that. It's unlike anything else. So to go through that for 17, 18 weeks on top of the 3 preseason games now.
Which Skoronski's played in all 3.
All 3. So 20 weeks. Oh, it's a long time. So, again, all that to say, there's going to be some peaks and some valleys. You just hope that the really low times or the low times are not super low, and there's not a whole lot of those.
615-737-1045, your last opportunity to talk Titans preseason football with Kevin Dyson here at Titans Talkback on 1045 The Zone. Presented by Lee Company. The Titans trust their home stadium to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home, too. Your next play? Visit LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. Justin on the F&M Bank chat says it's all about the offensive line. We have playmakers on both sides that can win games. Staying healthy in offensive line play is the difference between 6-11 and 11-6. A lot of concern as well in the F&M Bank chat, KD, about the kicker position, which we've hit on tonight. Adam says field goal kicker is my greatest concern. Not your average Joe on the chat says, can Ryan Stonehouse kick field goals? Look, it's going to be interesting next week to see what kickers come available around the league, who's out there. Michael Badgley, as we said, not necessarily inspiring confidence this week.
Unfortunately.
It's one of those things that it's going to be a concern until it's not, right?
Right.
I mean, it's going to be a concern until some consistency is found there at kicker for the Tennessee Titans. And there's just nothing that could feasibly happen between now and week 1 for that concern to be erased. I truly don't know who the Titans could bring in. It's just one of those things that we're going to have to see it play out and have to see some games strung together in consistency with the field goal kicker, whoever that might be, before that concern starts to dissipate from the minds of Titans fans.
You know, and if it is him at the beginning of the season and he is put in that situation week 1 and he knocks that kick down, he can eliminate a whole lot of conversation. You know, now you had to do it again. You had to be that same guy the next week or the week after that or whenever it comes up again. But again, I think about so many scenarios, and it seems there's usually that mid 40-yard kick with limited time on the clock that you have to win the game with. And there's been a time where, like Rob Brown, that was money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Aldell Greco, that was money. And I'm dating myself going back all these old kickers that I had around here. But Anderson, Morton, that was money. You just kind of, just made the assumption they were going to make that. Of recent, you kind of held your breath. Like, hope he makes it. Hope he makes it. We won that one. And then, there was a time or two where they should have made it and we won. And now you talk about home field advantage throughout the whole play. You know what I mean? It hasn't had that consistency at that position in the last several years that you would hope. And teams that end up having a kicker for 10, 15 years of their existence. So, hopefully they make a decision where it is beneficial to the team. Again, we're not at practice every day. We're not seeing if he's consistent at the practice. But after today's performance, it just doesn't give you, like you said before, doesn't give you that confidence that he's the guy in that moment.
615-737-1045. Cameron from Nashville wants to talk about the offense on Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. What's up, Cameron?
What's up? How you guys doing?
Great.
All right, man.
I just got a question right quick. With the last 2 preseason games, we really scored about 24, 23 points per game, and that looks like how our offense will look. Do you think that this defense will be able to hold to teams like the Bengals we faced this year to up under 16 points per game for us to have a comfortable win?
Thanks for the call, man.
The top defenses in the National Football League usually give up about 13 to 18 points a game, right? You're just not going to shut down people in the National Football League. The rules in itself make it an offensive league, and you're talking to an offensive player. I benefited from the rules, and they're even more beneficial for receivers now. You can't even hit a guy going across the middle anymore without him getting a penalty. So they hesitate. I used to get my head taken off, and I still was in an era where they wanted to put the ball in. Now they throwing the ball. We got quarterbacks throwing the ball for 5,000 yards now.
The best scoring defense in 2022 was the San Francisco defense that allowed 17.2 points per game.
Exactly. So to make that assumption that somebody, okay, we'll say the Titans are in that range of 15 to 18 points a game that they give up, right? Most teams, most good offenses are going to average between 22 and 24, I would assume. Now there's a few that end up with a 29, 30, 31. I would say KC was probably averaging upwards of 30 last year. Somebody else, I would say, I know Philly was probably upwards of 30 points a game last year. But for the most part,
Kansas City 29.2.
There you go.
Philly 29.1.
I'm telling you, I'm just spitballing just from experience. I'm not looking. You looked at the screen. I didn't. I'm just going off experience. People think NFL is usually a possession or two away. It's not like people are like Alabama blowing out people 54-3 every week. Most people are going to be in that range, and the goal is to get 24 because you score 24 points. You give, as you just alluded to, you give yourself a chance to win every week. 24 is the goal. Just by every team, 24 points a game gives you a good chance to win every week. As that shows you, that's probably right in the middle of both of those scores. So, if the Titans are only giving up 16, 17 points a game, that's a pretty stellar defense. And you're winning a minimum of 10 doing that. minimum. Now, I can go back. 1998, 99, maybe, Baltimore Ravens. They were right at 7-9, 8-8, something like that. We went 13-3. I think they only gave up right around 12, 13 points a game that year, maybe a little bit more, but they were just under 500, but they couldn't score points. Now, you can say, I don't think the Titans offense and the way the league is now, I don't assume that would happen if the Titans defense was to that caliber where they're only giving up 2 scores a game. If they're only giving 2 scores a game, they're winning 11, 12 football games easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
The floor is extremely high if that's the case.
That's the case.
Wrapping things up here on Titans Talkback, presented by League Company. All you need, visit them online at leaguecompany.com. Going to be some difficult conversations on Monday from Titans coaches, from Titans general manager Rand Carthon, as the roster needs to be officially trimmed down to 53 by 3 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday, August 29th. So earlier this week at training camp, I got a chance to sit down and chat with Mark Mariani, former Titans specialist and wide receiver, 7th-round pick, who had to earn his way onto a roster before he, made his name as a Pro Bowl kick returner. And Mark said something that I kept flashing through my head this week. When it comes to these fringe guys just fighting to make either this roster or another one, Mark was saying, make them rewind the tape.
Yeah.
Make coaches rewind the tape and say, okay, who is that guy? So, KD, as the preseason comes to an end, Titans go 2-1, wrap it up tonight with a 23-7 win over the Patriots. Who do you think did that the most throughout the course of this preseason? Which Titans player made coaches rewind the tape more than any other in the last 3 games?
It's just funny because as I was taking notes watching the game, I asterisked or highlighted 2 people, one on offense, one on defense. I had no idea you was going to ask me this tonight, and I just happened to do that. That's just as I was taking notes watching the game. Defense, Caleb Murphy.
Had a sack tonight. Again. He's had at least one in every game.
He keeps popping off the tape. You watch him. He's relentless. He's getting after the quarterback. He's playing well. I just like his energy, and I like the production of his career leading up into his potential professional career. I was about to say his professional career. I should say potential professional career. He hasn't made it yet. And so I really liked what I saw in him on tape, the special last several weeks. And then the other guy is Chestnut. I love how he runs with the peel. He's shown the ability to catch the ball at the backfield again. He's got 2 touchdown catches in successive weeks. I just really like what he's been able to do as far as a ball carrier. He's a physical runner. This is my mistake. I didn't watch him in pass protections as much. I was just watching him run. I should have been paying attention to how he picks up schemes as far as his blocking when he's back there in the backfield. I did not watch that. But those are the 2 on either side of the football that kept saying, "Let me see. This guy's gonna make it." And you watch it, that guy's gonna make it. They just kept popping off the tape when you watch them out there. You just had to see what they were doing.
That does it for the Titans 2023 preseason. Week 1 in New Orleans in just a couple of weeks against the Saints. Kevin Dyson, this was fun, and we'll be back at it when the Titans kick off the 2023 regular season.
Yes, sir.
Titans radio coverage is produced by Philip Noel and Brad Willis. Studio producer is Joseph Hunkapiller. The promotions director is Rich Ferris. Director of sales, Hunter Rice. General manager is Allison Warren. Operations managers, Charlie Cook and Paul Mason. The executive producer of Titans radio is Rhett Bryan. Roster cut day on Tuesday, and the Titans 2023 season opener at the New Orleans Saints will be 2 weeks from Sunday. We will talk to you then after the Titans wrap up the 2023 preseason with a 23-7 victory over the New England Patriots at Nissan Stadium. For producer Jackson Williams, Dr. Kevin Dyson, I'm Lucas Panzica. This has been the League Company Titans Talkback on 104.5 The Zone.